There is a network component and there is a wireless component. Don't forget this principle. No SSID will work without these two components. So there is a network component and there is what? There is a wireless component of it. The network, what it means is that you have to create your network. So for example, in this environment, let me log on to my switch that I have here. So I have this, my switch that I'm using for that location. So it's 250, and I've created one network for this purpose. I just want to show it to you, but I will not show you how to create network. I believe everybody know how to once you are a past student. So let me change the font size. That's cool. So to check your network that you've created, this one, it was DHCP. So you can do show IP interface brief, which I taught you how to, and because it's core environment, you can just exclude the one that is unassigned. So you can exclude unassigned interface so that you don't. Then you will see that these are the interfaces that are created. I'm going to use this network, and this network I built it for DHCP. So this is my IP address, and for DHCP, we do show run, and you can either do session or begin DHCP. So DHCP, and I have a couple of them. So the one that we are going to use is this one, okay? So this is the one that we are going to use. So VLAN training. How come I have two of these? Get it later, but that is fine. So it means that the network is good here. So that is what you have to do first. So to create SSID, your network should be good. So you have to create it on the core switch. If it's a remote office, you have to create it on what? The branch office. In case you are using different kind of deployment design, okay? So that is done. So now we can go to the wireless controller. So wireless controller, so I have this one. So what do you do in terms of wireless controller? So I want you to mimic this in network perspective. In wireless controller, you have to look at two things. You have to create the interface for the network. Just as when we are creating network for branch office or any network, you create interface first. So like the one I checked on the core switch or on the switch that I log on, I did show IP interface brief to see my interface first, and the show run to see my DHCP network, okay? So first of all, you have to create interface first. So on the interface, you go to controller, and on the controller, you go to interface, okay? So as you go to the interface on the controller, and you create new, so you can see on the far right side. So these are all the interface of my previous network. So you come to this side, then you go to new, and under new, you go to what? Interface name, which is more for, how do you call it? A profile name that you want to use, okay? So in that case, I'm going to have it to be, let's say, VLAN. And it's good to use the VLAN to be sure of which interface you are using. And most of the time, I say that when you are working, before you do this, you can also pick existing one. So you pick existing one, which is already configured, to see how they did it in terms of their naming convention, sorry. So you go to interface and pick existing one, which is already there like this one, and see the interface name, how they do it, whether they use the name or whether they use the VLAN name or whatever. Then you mimic the same thing, okay? So in my case, I'll come here, I'm going to create a new one. So I go to new, And when I go to new, I say VLAN what? VLAN 30. So let me use VLAN 30 for this one. Then I give the VLAN ID. So the VLAN ID is the VLAN number, which is 30, okay? So when I do this, then I go to apply. So when you apply, another window will pop up. So when that window pop up, you have the port number, okay? You have the port number, which is the physical. So these are physical information. So port number, VLAN identifier, you have IP address, you have network mask, you have gateway, you have DHCP server. So with the port number, you use the port that your cable is connected to. So this is a wireless controller. I can use any port number that has connection to my port switch. So in my case, I'm using 1. If you have more, you can add backup to it too, okay? But I'm using just one interface. Then with the IP address for this network is 192.168.30. And you can use any IP address within that range. It's not a big deal. You can use either you can use the reserved IP address you have. So depending on your company design, you can use the reserved IP address you have, or you can use any of the DHCP one to be your interface, and you reserve it for the DHCP not to issue it to any device, okay? Then you have the network mask 2 here. So that one is going to be 255.255.0, okay? Then I have my gateway. So my gateway for this design, I didn't use the 1. So you can use the 1 or you can use the last one. So I have 30.25. And I have to use my DHCP server. So DHCP server, it might be a Windows server. It might be a Windows server that you relay to somewhere. But in my case, I'm using the switch as a DHCP server. That is why I configured the DHCP pool there. So I'm using it as a DHCP server. In that case, I'm going to put that one there so that I can issue IP address. So what I'm doing, it means that it's going to issue IP address to the client. So all the clients are going to have the same scope. Okay, 192.168.30.25. Things to note here, guys. First, you have to get the right VLAN, which is the interface. This should be in the same scope for the VLAN that you've created. You can't change it, okay? The subnet mask should be the same, the gateway should be correct, and the DHCP server should be correct. If not, you configure SSID and it will not get an IP address, because the information here you have is going to give the IP address to your client. Remember that the client is only connected to their AP, not to a switch. So if you don't put the right information on the wireless controller, all your SSID will be showing up because the wireless controller will showcase it, but then all the clients will not get IP address, or they will get IP address which is not correct with the VLAN. So this part is very, very important. The interface is very, very important in terms of creating what? SSID. Then you click what? Apply. So it's just telling you that you show your parameters and everything. You say yes. Then I have it here. Okay. So now that I have it here, the next thing you have to do is to create your wireless LAN. So there are 2 things to do. You go to your controller and you create the interface. Don't forget this. In an interview, have you created SSID before? Yes. How did you go about it? So on my wireless controller, I create my interface by going to the controller to create the interface with the necessary IP address and the DHCP server that I want to use. When I'm done with that one, I come to the wireless LAN to create my wireless network. So the wireless LAN is the wireless network, okay? So we are now going to create the wireless network. So you come here and you go to what? Go. Then when you go to Go, you create the profile name, okay? The profile name is not the SSID, it's just the name. So you can use the same thing you use for the interface. So in my case, I'm using what, VLAN 30. Then my SSID, I can create anything. So let me say Network Pro 2. And this one, as you are creating more, it will be increasing by itself. So it's not an issue to worry about. Then you go to apply. So when you go to apply, then you come here. So the general information, you come here. Then this you have to take. This is some of the common issues you'll be resolving in wireless. They will say that SSID is not broadcasting or SSID is not visible. You come here and the status is disabled. If the status is disabled, it will not work to anywhere. So you have to make sure you take this one. And I think, so Labo, this was the question the man was asking you. How do you configure your 802.11 protocol on your wireless controller? So the radio frequency, you can choose anything that you want. I can choose only this, and it means that only A will be broadcasting. And if only A is broadcasting, it means that this network is going to be in the 5 gigahertz range. It's not going to be in the 2.4. That terminology, don't forget it. That terminology, don't forget it. So A is always for 5 gigahertz range, and the B and the G. B, I wonder if you see any device that use B. So I don't see any SSID that you use B. It will be hard to be using. Even this wireless controller doesn't give only B alone. You see that B alone is not available because B is very, very slow. Very, very, very slow. So you can have A or you can have G, even though G is 2.4, but the speed rate is high. Okay? So depending on what SSID you are using, you can pick any of this. Now, as I'm here in terms of troubleshooting, I have troubleshoot by changing some of this. I'll get a client which they are saying that it's not associating with an AP. I ask of the SSID they are using. I come to the wireless LAN and I realize that it's only enabled with A only. So if that client machine works better with G, it means that it's not going to work. So I come and choose maybe AG only or just vary this option. Then I'll tell them, try it again. And the moment they try, say, boom, it's working. Then they will say, wow, what a proper engineer that we have in the building. So all these are very good for, if you choose all, any range will work. Sometimes by choosing all too has disadvantage. So some company prefer specifying the 802.11 range, and you can either choose this. So for this one, let's choose this. And this one is very important. You have to specify what interface you want the SSID to work on. You don't have to forget this. So you have to choose. It cannot be on management. It has to be on a specific one, okay? You can enable multicast features, but I'll come to that one when I teach you something so that you will understand when to enable it. But most of the time, if you don't enable it, it will still work. Now, the next thing you have to do is to come to security. So security, we have layer 2, we have layer 3, and we have layer and we have AAA server. So layer 2, what it means is that I can choose to make this none. If I make it none, it means that anybody anyhow can connect. Okay, there is no authentication, so anybody anyhow can connect. We don't even use this for guests for special reason, because when you come to layer 3, you can have none with certain policies, okay, with certain policy in addition. So it's still none, but it's not none for nothing. There's still authentication. But we will create another SSID, or I'll come details to this to explain that to you. So what it means is that if I want to go with layer 2, I'll just choose this one, which is by default. So by default, you have this, or you have 802.x. But I want to use this one for pre-share key. And when I use pre-share key, then you choose your authentication. So this is always by default. You can take this and this, or you can take this together with this. It will still give you a pre-share format. So I'll just use the default one, and I'll say I'm using PSK. So PSK is the pre-share key. So I come here, then I put the key that I want to put there. So the key that I want to put there, if let me say, and I hit what? Apply. So what have I done? I've created SSID, and the SSID I've created. Okay, so let me even go and open my insider and use that one to explain further. So if I open my insider, you can see that this is my network pro that I just created. So it is this one. So when you see network pro, you can see that there is nothing in the range of 2.4. They are all in the range of this. Now, you can configure SSID for specific device, and probably that is what your eGuest stand for. It might be for a specific device or for a critical devices, or it can even be a guest network, but it's a guest for a specific device, and for that reason, they can give a specific 802 range that is less traffic for good performance. So you can see that this is less traffic on the environment. I don't have a lot of network within this range, but we look at 2.4, so many network within this range, so many, all these gray sign are network. So if I pick this one, it's also a network here fighting with me. If I pick here, it's still fighting with my network professional that I have here, okay? So a lot of network within this range, okay? So I've created SSID just for the specific of 5G, because on my wireless controller, when I came here, I said what? A only. Now, if I change the A only and I said use all, it means that I'm going to be in all the range. So let me go apply and say okay. And when I come to my insider, the office, you see that now I'm in the 2.4, I'm in the 5, okay? So like the question they asked Labo, how do you configure your 802.11 G or A or whatever? Remember that B is an old protocol. B and A came the same year, but B was very slow, so it didn't last long. Then A came, okay? So they all came the same year. So hardly will you have any company using 802.11B, mostly to be A or the G or the N or all of it. Now, so the only thing with this method is that speed will not be as effective if the person is on 2.4, because they're fighting with a lot of network, is full traffic and all that. But there is a free range which improve your performance as well, okay? Okay, so now, if you look at this, my insider, you can see that the Net Pro is the highest with the better speed. Why? Because it has the capability of being the 5G. The rest don't have it. That is why they are all below. Okay, so the higher you go, the better you get. And I'm saying that on the membership page, if you go to
Prof, yeah, the Net Pro and the others that you show, is it because it is the first, that's why the highest, because you see in the signal, others have higher signal than that one,
right? You said others have what? Higher signal? The bigger the number of your signal, the less So if you are having bigger, closer to zero is better. Let me put it that way. Closer to zero is better. So The best network. Oh, this one is my home network. Let me see.
I got it.
So this is the network. Okay. So yeah. So you got it now. Okay. So 13 is very, very good. It's very, very so. This one will perform better than this. Clients who are on this will perform better than those who are on this. So the higher you go, the better. But everybody who is working, try and get this. And as we go into troubleshooting, you see that it will help you a lot. You go to the network tools. There are so many tools. I fancy this one. Maybe you fancy better, different one. You go to wireless monitoring. There are so many of them that you can download. Okay. So I've given all the monitoring tool in every aspect of our work. Every aspect, even though now I'll say that intrusion detection, web security, and security auditing will not be useful to you because I have not taught you much into network security. But when I teach you, you will appreciate that these are powerful tools to have them when you are working. But in terms of wireless, there are many of them, and the only thing you have to do is just go to the link. So, for example, this Insider. Where is my Insider? Yes. So I've given you the link. You just click on it, and it will take you to the place that you want to download from. So it will take you to megajig.com, but that is where you get that software to download from. Okay. Okay. Now, any question with how to create SSID for pre-share key? Any question on that? Okay.
The question was on I think the step one, where when you're talking about using the switch for your DHCP server. That was new to me because I don't know if you can use a switch for DHCP server.
Don't be robots. Okay. I even said that you can go to a company where their core switches, they've configured it to act as a DHCP server. You can go to a company where they do that. So every network device can act as a DHCP server. I teach you best practice. I'm saying that if you are working and you have the chance to practice something different, the best one is to have DHCP, and I want you to project that in an interview process, because if I'm interviewing you, I want to see that you are coming from the first place. So most of the things I teach you to are deliberate, and it's talking of, it's not layer 2 switch. So you cannot configure DHCP network on layer 2. That you can't do it. But you can configure DHCP network on multi-layer switch. Remember that I said multi-layer is a router and a switch at the same time. So if your question is just for layer 2, then you are correct. But for multi-layer, you can do it. Does it make sense?
That makes sense now, yeah.
So first of all, I'll create my network on the core switch for the wireless client. Then I go to the wireless controller, and through the interface, I create the interface for the SSID. Then I come to wireless LAN, and the wireless LAN too I create with the SSID name, and I specify the security method I'm going to use, whether I'm going to use the pre-share key or I'm going to use AAA server or whatever. So in my practice, I've done all. I've done all by creating SSID to use pre-share key. I've done by creating guest network to use web authentication method. I've also created SSID to use AAA server. Okay, these are the things you have to be saying in an interview in terms of your